Hey guys, welcome to the Metabolic Health Docs YouTube channel. I have a phenomenal guest with me today, and that's Rhonda of Carnivore Leo YouTube channel. Stop the video, go to Carnivore Leo YouTube channel and subscribe to her wonderful channel because she's got a lot of nuggets that really help us understand how to be metabolically healthy. And guess what? One of those nuggets is what we're talking about today. She had a great video about the 6 animal fats that are good to help us heal. So many of my patients are afraid of animal fat. They say, Doc, that's crazy. That's going to clog my arteries, but it's quite the opposite. And we'll share in this video why. So if you are concerned about animal fats or you know somebody that is, make sure you share, like, subscribe so we can get this message out. So Rhonda, thank you for making that wonderful video. And let's kind of walk through the 6 animal fats that people should be thinking about. So what's the first one?
Well, the first one is beef tallow. And I just recently learned it's also called suet because it's from the fat that's around the kidneys. So, but you can make beef tallow out of any beef fat, which I also make it at home myself. So it's very easy to make. After I make my bone broth, I go ahead and take the fat off the top after it cools. And then I
Yes.
melt that down and purify it and then pour it into my mason jars and I cook with that.
That's amazing. Now, who'd have thought that that fat at the top of the bone broth was good for us? But it is, guys, and there's many reasons for that. In fact, many of the fats that we're going to share in this video are nutrient dense. So beef tallow has a lot of nutrients in it. Beef tallow is not processed. Think about those so-called vegetable oils. Well, the so-called vegetable oils are actually seed oils. They take the seed and they process it over and over again. And that's not what our bodies were made to use as an oil. So instead, we use the natural oil from the cow, which is the beef tallow. And also, some people even use it for their skin. You may notice that Rhonda has beautiful skin. Well, you can actually use, that's right, you can actually use beef tallow to moisturize your skin as well. And you can also use it to improve your immunity and reduce inflammation. So that's number one. What's the second animal-based oil we should be thinking about?
Well, the second one I learned from my Indian friends and it's called ghee.
Mm,
So you can use ghee in any food you want to make. Sometimes I'll fry eggs in it. Um, you can use it in soups.
that's right.
Even before I became carnivore, I actually used ghee when I made my dal, which is lentils.
Mm.
And so the Indian culture, they definitely incorporate ghee in their diet, and it's very nutritious as well. Also, the highest smoke point of all the animal fats.
Yes, that's you. First of all, I didn't know that that was a big part of the Indian culture. So thank you for teaching the doctor that today. But more importantly, that smoke point may be one of the most important because again, it's a clarified butter. It's a concentrated butter, and because of that, it can handle those higher temperatures. Probably at about a 485 degree Fahrenheit compared to butter, which is more like at 350. There's also something called acrylamides, which is a chemical that can cause cancer. There's less of that in ghee than in other types of fats. And then you have to think about what is ghee in the first place. It's like basically what they do is they take the milk solids and they remove those. And when you do that, you have less lactose and casein. And if you think about a person who has allergies to dairy, right, they're going to tolerate ghee better. So for people who are intolerant, ghee is great. Another thing I like about ghee is that it has a longer shelf life. It lasts for a much longer time. So if you're in the refrigerator, you could probably keep it for 6 months. And if you're in a freezer, you can keep it for about 12 months. But you can also store it at room temperature, which is really cool. And butter, you really can't do that. So, and the last thing I can think about is that ghee has a richer taste than butter. So, and let's go to the next animal fat we want to talk about in this video, Rhonda.
Well, the next one is one of my favorites, which is butter. I actually like butter a little bit better than ghee. Um, so I use butter in almost everything. And when I make my bone broth, I do add butter to the bone broth. And also, I add butter to my steaks. I think I add butter to almost everything. And I
Yeah.
also um, went back to drinking coffee. Sorry, Dr. Chafee, but I add butter to my coffee. It's called
Mm,
bulletproof coffee. So I use
yes.
butter and heavy cream and stevia.
That's awesome. Well, Dr. Chafee, he won't mind. I think for me, butter, I always like to compare it to margarine, and a lot of people like margarine because they say, well, it has more unsaturated fat, where butter has more saturated fat. And I understand the previous concerns about that, but we now know that saturated fat is actually not that harmful. In fact, the Journal of the American College of Cardiology, if you just search that and say, what is their position statement on fat, they will say not only that saturated fat is not associated with increased mortality and heart disease, but saturated fat reduces your risk for a stroke. So actually the butter with the saturated fat may be better for you to prevent a stroke. And obviously there's not an increased risk for heart disease. And the main thing about butter compared to some of these other oils out there, particularly margarine, is that it's not processed, right? Again, I mentioned that seed oils are processed, and that's a problem. So that's the main thing. And if you compare it to margarine, butter has a richer flavor. So let's go to number 4, Rhonda. What's the fourth animal-based oil we need to think about?
So number 4 is lard. And lard is from pork. And sometimes I'll deep fry food in lard because it's less expensive. I think for me to do that, I like to make salmon croquettes, and I'll fry my salmon croquettes in lard.
I use lard all the time. And so we save all the bacon grease that we, get from our cooking our bacon. And that's how I make a lot of my steaks and other things. It really adds a ton of flavor. And there are so many of my patients who are using turkey bacon. Shout out to all the turkey bacon eaters. But the reality is the turkey bacon is not really better than the pork in a way you would think. Okay, yes, it is less fatty. Yes, it has less calories, but it also has less protein. It's just as much salt in it if we cared about that. And they're both highly processed. So if you're going to eat bacon, just eat bacon. But more importantly, you should not be fearing lard. So all the old school folk know this because they used to save the bacon grease on the stove. Well, we need to get back to doing that and stop eating the vegetable oil. So let's go to number 5. What's the fifth animal-based fat that we should be thinking about?
Okay, the fifth one is new to me. I never heard of it. It's called Schmaltz. And it's from chicken and goose. I guess it's from the skins. And what they
Hmm.
do is they boil it and let the fat render, and they
Hmm.
strain it. And it's supposed to resemble, I think, lard.
Yeah,
And I think it's popular in the Jewish community because they are kosher. So,
nice.
Jewish community, they don't fry anything in lard or tallow.
All right. I like that. And well, shout out to one of the previous videos, podcasts I did with my carnivore rabbi. So he probably knows more about this than me. Shout out to him and his YouTube channel. This type of fat from chicken can definitely tolerate high temperatures as well. It adds a ton of flavor to the food that you use to cook with that. And another thing about it is that it's easy to digest, but just as importantly, it does reduce triglyceride levels, and we all know triglycerides are important to reduce. It reduces inflammation, and it also increases the elasticity of our skin. So let's go to the last fat that we wanted to share with our audience today. Rhonda, what would that be?
And that would be duck fat. I've never had it, but I recently bought a jar, so I'm going to try that soon. Um, and duck fat, Dr. Kilt said is delicious. And he says that he'll have treat days where he'll fry his potatoes in duck fat.
Nice. I love that. So when he has a day of indulgence, he wants to make sure they taste as good as they should. And duck fat is definitely another fat that many of you haven't tried. But if you've eaten duck, duck is delicious. And of course, the fat from a duck is probably delicious as well. It also has been known to reduce inflammation, reduce your blood sugar levels, believe it or not, reduce your cancer risk, and also help you with your good cholesterol, HDL, because the good cholesterol HDL, when it's high, that helps to protect us as well. So the whole point of this video that me and Rhonda are sharing today is to help you understand that you should not fear animal fat. Natural fat is always better than highly processed seed oil fat. And if you start to eat and cook in the way that our ancestors did, you'll be healthier. So thank you, Rhonda, for coming to this video as we spread this message of healing. And for those who checked us out, continue to like, subscribe, and share. Go to Rhonda's YouTube channel, Carnivore Leo, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.